Hello again. We're in southeastern Rhode Island, a little Compton, at Wilbur Woods. It took me an hour and 17 minutes to get here. You have to go all the way up through Providence and then all the way back down because there's no easier way. But anyways, we got a forest of American holly. Looks like a white oak or a swamp oak. We got red maple right here. What else we got? We got a nice creek, nice wide creek. Lots of moss, so the snow's melted. And it looks like it's going to be really nice habitat today. We got some usnea. This is a lichen, a bushy beard lichen. Typical for coastal habitats like this one. And this one's like right on the coast too. Parking's kind of garbage here, but you know, I found a little spot. So we're going to go hike around and look around. Next to some dog shit, we have Calicladium haldanium, or the beautiful branch moss. It's a medium-sized creek, decent flow rates. We have Pseudomogedon attenuatus, or the tree skirt moss. This is really common, and I think it's going to be on most trees here. Look how beautiful. We have Bryandersonia elisabara, or the spoon-leaved moss. These are typical of more rich areas, and we also have Thalia hurtella, another common moss associated with, I guess, tree bark. Typically you see these growing on clumps in the ground. Here we have the fertile fronds of sensitive fern. This is usually what stays up during this time of year. These spread spores all around. This is the old frond. They call it sensitive fern because first frost, it dies back. You typically find them in more wet habitats such as this one. Forest, Ilex opaca, or the winterberry holly, is pretty prevalent and forms about maybe half the understory underneath oak and maple. Fagus grandifolia, or the American beech. You can see it starting to be beech bark diseased. This happens when a sap-sucking insect basically causes a small wound in the tree, and then this invasive fungus basically goes in through the wound and then pocks it up, eventually killing the tree. The remains of Myanthemum canadens. It's probably the most common wildflower in the area. These are small white flowers in May, that's also known as Mayflower, or Canada Mayflower. And then it has these little red berries that are on these little stalks here. Crazy lichen. That thing's awesome. Because we're so close to the coast, these forests are pretty much perpetually moist. Moist and cool. Perfect habitat for lichens. That's a beauty. We have a small tree called Hamelinus virginiana, or the witch hazel. Yellow flowers in the fall. It's the last one to bloom in the area, last shrub. And they're quite common. It's cool to see. We have Clethra onifolia, or the sweet pepper bush. These are white flowers in August, and they smell wonderful. It makes up the dominant shrub along the coast here. It's pretty much all this haze. It's another witch hazel. So my goal is to avoid people today, because this area is very wealthy and, in my opinion, probably filled with Karens that would look at me and say, he looks sketchy. He looks sketchy. I'm going to call the cops on him. Because that's the type of people they are, you know, rich, white, suburbanites. Luckily, the vacation homers aren't here, because half the residences here are vacation homes. Very rich vacation homes, you know, like 2,500 square foot, not even 25,000 square foot, giant giga mansions on 5 acres of pristine lawn. Beautiful creek. Minium hornum, or horned calcareous moss. It's a common moss in wetlands. The diversity of mosses and other plants on this maple stump, or maple tree. So here we have Calicladium imponens. This is Thudium delicatum. This is Polytrichum. It's either Atrichum or Polytrichum. Right there. We got a sphagnum. We got some kind of Symphiatrichum, probably the swamp aster. We got, where was it? Well, we got Minium right there. We have a Dicranum right here, a small thing. We got a Cladonia lichen. We got a Rubus hispidus right here. I love it. So many different species in one spot. It's likely just more Calcladium haldanium, the beautiful branch moss. It's pretty variable. It could also just be a totally different thing. But it's beautiful, bright green growing on this white oak here. We have a polypore in the genus Sturium, maybe Sturium complicatum, or the crowded parchment. It's a shelf fungi. Twig and buds of the Acer rubrum, or red maple. Here's the bark. That's what the tree looks like. You can see all the lichens up on it. And then here are the leaves. Nice little red maple leaves. We have some Mitchella repens, or partridge berry. These are two white flowers in the early summer that turn into one red berry. We have a slug. I don't know what kind of slug, but I just found it on this little stick. This fungi on it. Polypore. The crimped gill. I forget the scientific name, but they call it the crimped gill because the gills on it, I guess, looked crimped. It's somewhat common. I see it here and there. It's growing on this dead. Looks like a birch. Yeah, black birch. That's what this is. We have the thornless version of multiflora rose. It's an invasive rose. And you can see it's thornless, which is interesting. That's one of the variants. Invasive. White flowers in the early summer that smell rather nice. We have Smilax rotundifolia, or greenbrier. It's in the lily family, and it forms thickets like you see here. You can see the history of pasture land here with these old walls. And on my way here, there was a lot of pasture land. We have some Nyssa sylvatica, or the black tupelo. You can tell because of its kind of, I don't want to say messy branching structure, but it's very horizontal. Grid-like? I don't know what you'd call that, but it's definitely a tupelo. You can also tell by its chonky bark. We have some beautiful Quercus rubra, or red oak, with some nice moss at the base. You can see leaves here, very red oak-like. We have that Calcladium haldanium, the beautiful branch moss, some dicranum. Beautiful. It's mostly a Calcladium haldanium. Look how it's climbing. That's cool. Funktastic lichen here on the stick. That one's weird looking. All these here look like crap. They don't look good at all. Got like some kind of fungal thing going on. A lot of them are declining. Look at the weird galls in this blueberry. These don't really affect the blueberry too much. Some atrichum. You can see all of its little spore stalks going off. With the warmer than average winter we've been having. Plagiominium. Plagiominium. I don't know what the exact species is. They're here and there. Not the most common, but not the most rare. Fungi forming these odd scales on this dead holly here. Interesting kind of pinky orangey color too. Here we have Monotropa uniflora, Indian pipes. These are white in the spring or in the early summer. Blueberry family. Parasitic. Cool. Parasitic on fungi. It's a microheterotroph in the blueberry family. A relatively common moss in the genus Alucomnium, or bog moss. I think it's a ribbed bog moss. It's a cool one. Different texture from all the other ones that are common. And right there we have a dicranum. And then on this dicranum there's some other weird funky guy that I always forget the name of. That's this kind of, I don't know, red? Orangey? It's interesting though. Alucomnium dicranum. Another beautiful mossy red oak with a bunch of different types of mosses on it. You got your Thelia hirtella, your Calcladium, we'll just call it the beautiful branch moss. This little guy, your Plagiominium. Pretty much everything I just showed you, your dicranum, the strange tiny one that I don't know what it is. That one, I think it's a marchantophyte or a liverwort. It's the stuff growing in between the dicranum. What else do we got? We have a even smaller dicranum here, like a pincushion dicranum. What else we got? That's pretty much that. That's it. So like 5 or 6 species. Always fun. I want a tree like this in my yard one day. Other common fungi or polypore in the genus Sturium. No idea what type, but I know it's a distinct one. I'm still learning them. There's like 14 different species. And they can look pretty damn similar too. We have a mixture of sphagnum, which is this, and a climacium, which is that. So a tree moss and a peat moss. I couldn't tell you the exact species of either, but they're rather beautiful in this lowland. They go well together, really nice. And this different one is just a young form of that, because these eventually die in senesce. Some Linderna benzoin, or spice bush here. These will be yellow flowers, which are almost ready here in April and May. Beautiful bark on these, and they have yellow foliage in the fall. They're quite common in more rich swamps. Look at the beautiful, beautiful holly there. Strange and interesting jelly fungus, or jelly mold, or something like that. It's a black one. This one's common this time of year. Show you this beast of a skunk cabbage. Look at that thing. Slimcocarpus foetitis. This thing's a monster. Beautiful. Amongst all the rhizomium. And the remains of sedges and cinnas. There's some rubus. Beautiful Plagiomonium. They also call it woodsy thyme moss, or just thyme moss, because I guess the leaves kind of look like thyme. You can see it with the climacium too, and you can also see the new growth. That's those little green specks. I think it's a zizia. It's in the Cara family. Has yellow flowers and a flat umbel. It's maybe 3 feet tall. It's a cool one. Grows in swamps. And it's rare. I rarely see it. Common in other areas, I bet. Tiny Calmia angustifolia, or sheep laurel. These have pink flowers when they're mature. They kind of look like mountain laurel. In the blueberry family, the Ericaceae. That one's cool. Quartz pieces were used in the construction of the walls around here. Look how nice that rock is. Potentilla. This one's beautiful. Yellow flowers in the spring. It kind of looks like a rose. Or maybe, yeah, it's a rose family plant. Think of like a strawberry flower. Potentilla. It's a common ground cover. Just, that thing's probably over 50, maybe 60 years old. And I think what's happening is they're getting shaded out. But they're still pretty dominant here. Underneath oak and maple. Beautiful Wood Ardea areolata, one of my favorite mosses. Very nice. These are the spore stalks. And it's Wood Ardea is relatively uncommon. And here it is growing. In the pretty much mesic forest here we have a yellow birch, a Betula elegensis, typical of shady, moist environments. Beautiful variety of sphagnum. Isn't that nice? Different from this is the one I've been seeing. So you can see how different it is. These ones are shaggier. These ones are pointier, smaller, fern-like. Compared to those are leafy. Sturium lobatum. Now we're going through an area with a more dense population of the American holly. The ferns you see are the remains of them. These are all cinnamon fern. You got clethra shrubs, lots of American hollies, a few white oaks here and there. Maybe swamp white oak. Yeah, I think they're swamp white oak. Here's the leaf on them. Full swamp, maple clethra. Have a cool polypore here. I think it's like a triptathum or something like that. Got lots of clethra. Got a spice bush here, and this tree with dead leaves is the Carpinus carolinea, or musclewood. It's a young one. I think it's a type of puffball. Beautiful Woodardea areolata. I love this fern. One of my favorites. Fertile stock. There's a few of them here and there. Beautiful patch. You got Alocomnium. We have Minium. We have, so this is one Minium, then this is Plagiominium, and then this is Stelia hirtella and Thudium delicatum. Look how nice. Same thing I showed you before, but you can see it used to be a puffball. So it might be the earth ball mushroom, maybe? Beautiful Tupelo, absolutely ridden with lichen, which doesn't hurt it, it's just really dense on this one. On a big one, probably over 100 years old. A beautiful Lyonia ligostrina, or the he huckleberry. Beautiful leaves, and it just has a neat form and a very light colored bark as opposed to blueberries. And the buds are pretty too, with that kind of just red scale. We have an American beech that lacks any sort of spikes or serratedness on its leaves. Typically, most beeches, they have some, serrate margin where it's a little bit pokey on the ends. This one, strangely, does not. It's like a little bit, has some indementum on the bottom of the leaf. You can just make out tiny little hairs. And this is the tree here. It's a pretty big one. It's blight-free. And just the leaves are just bizarre on it. No spikes. We have the beautiful Eulata. Maybe Eulata crispa. It's in the genus Eulata. It's a crisp cushion moss. And then this is a strange other moss that I don't know of. Basil rosette of Prunella vulgaris. It's a beautiful kind of pinkish magenta flowering plant in the mint family with these beautiful pink bilaterally symmetrical flowers. The basil rosette looks like nothing too fancy, but it makes it's not ugly, so it makes a decent little ground cover. Remains of the calico aster, a Symphia trichum. The exact species is Trichum laterifolium. It's a really common one, and it is one of the only asters, besides whitewood aster, which is distinct, that gets tall and flowers like this. And these are all little daisy flowers with yellow centers, white petals, in the early fall, and then as each flower matures, the insides of them turn purple. I'm not sure what calico means. That might be what it means, but it's kind of yellow and purple. That's what it looks like, just like a big bush of yellow and purple flowers with just like a background of white. Because they're really small. They're teeny, like about the size of my pinky nail. And they're super common, super nice, kind of wet habitats, shady habitats like this, mesic, forested. And they can thrive in shady conditions too. Whereas something that looks similar, like the panicled aster or any number of other Symphia trichums, they have a distinct look and they do better in sun. Whereas these can do sun and shade, but they're the only one that gets this big in the shade. Swamp iris, likely blue flag. Iris versicolor, I believe. It's common, blooms in early summer, and it gets super big. It's a beautiful plant. Creek here has a beautiful gravel and sand bottom. Nice giant maple that was washed down during a flood. Multiflora rose though, so it's not outside of disturbance. Nice little path that goes here too. We have a strange species of, I want to say viburnum. I have never seen this shrub before, at least in the winter. My thought is viburnum because of the opposite branching and just the way it kind of grows, but it could be really anything. It's, I don't know the twig of this one, but if it had leaves or flowers, I'd know it immediately. I have a young rhododendron, maybe viscosum, maybe pinkster. or paraclamoides, or whatever it is. Hard to tell without flowers or leaves. Say this is a young black tupelo, but that's a big maybe right here. Some probably Rubus allegensis or Allegheny blackberry. But there's also an invasive version that kind of looks like this. We have a big subtree or small tree in the genus Alnus, or an alder. Could be any number of a few species that kind of look similar. I'm still learning them though. Some typha or cattails. It's one of them in the genus. I think it's a native one, the broad-leaved cattail. Yeah, it likely is. Typical wetland plant. So look, I think it's the broad-leaved. Typha latifolia. That's the scientific name for that one. And then this is all Eutrachium or Jopai. These are pink floofs in the late summer in the sunflower family. There's also Dichontheliums. You got that Rubus again. This one's a spiky multiflora rose. I saw some goldenrod earlier up here. We got a Euthamia, probably graminifolia, or the flat-topped goldenrod. Here we have Salix babylonica, or the weeping willow, invasive. And it loves wetlands, and it does spread in wetlands really well. And it can take over. You have some really tall goldenrods in here, or solidago. That's what these are. Very tall. Invasive bush honeysuckle, or Lonicera. Probably Morowii, or Morrow's honeysuckle. But it's one of the invasive ones. Up a bit. This is a blueberry briar thicket with clethra. You got white oaks. Very dense. Almost unwalkable. Look at this triple oak here. Get some maple. Giant triple maple. Red maple. Acer rubrum. You can tell by the dominant leaf under it, which is the red maple. This is just a deer path through the briar thicket. Nice American holly here. Burls on this triple red. Beautiful. White oak is old when it starts getting flaky. And this one's getting flaky. Not the widest one I found, only 2.5 feet. But it's chunky and flaky. This old Calmia latifolia. That spotting is a common fungus that doesn't really affect the trees too much. Giant. Thing's well over 100. Holly forests are beautiful. Old growth specimen of Ostraya virginiana, or the hop hornbeam. Typically, you only see small ones, and this one's a canopy-reaching one, so it's got to be old. Because they only germinate and grow in the shade, just like these American hollies. Birch family. It'll have little dangling yellow catkins and beautiful yellow leaves in the fall. Amazing old-growth specimen of Carpinus carolinea. This one's over 1.5 feet, or maybe just about 1 foot. Typically, you only find them really small. They're a beautiful shade tree. Look how gnarly that is. It's only about 15 feet tall. Right next to it, there's its sibling, Ostraya virginiana, or like distant cousin, more or less. And all the beautiful American hollies. We have oaks and tupelos. Gorgeous. Here we have a fern swamp underneath these hollies. We got the Woodardea, Areolata, of course. We got skunk cabbage. We have cinnamon ferns, which are these ones. There's your skunk cabbage. Various mosses. Beautiful giant American hollies. Here we have a beautiful Pinus strobus up in the background. It's an old specimen, or white pine. Then all these are American hollies, and this is a white oak here. To most other coastal regions, especially New England, this one is relatively sparsely populated, although housing is usually just giant mansions But there is, pretty decent chunks of land out here, and they haven't sold out to the developers who developed, the shoreline of, Boston and Cape Cod and Southern Rhode Island. Southern Rhode Island's just bought out. It's sad. Beautiful. This beautiful polypore here. Goodness gracious. Look at the size of this thing. Huge, growing on the old American holly. That's awesome. Mature Norway spruce. You can tell it's Norway spruce by the way it dangles. Picea abies, or Norway spruce, without a doubt. Not the red spruce that's native. Nice red oak here, Quercus rubra. Red oak fell over a long time ago, but was still able to grow. That's awesome. We have Geum canadensis. It's a little plant in the rose family, an herbaceous one, and it has little white rose-looking flowers in the summer. Pretty common. Beautiful beech leaf. This one you can definitely see the serrations. So this further proves that the one I found earlier is something weird. Just a phenotype of American beech that I guess doesn't form any serrations like this. Now we're getting to a skunk cabbage muck swamp. Look at all this skunk cabbage. Here's a chrysosplenium, or golden something. Let me look. Called golden saxifrage. Chrysosplenium americanum. Because you gotta include that. Even though it's the only chrysosplenium I think that grows around here. A rosette of Lobelia cardinalis, or the cardinal flower. A weird viburnum. This one's distinct. I don't know what species it is though. And there's no leaves for it. Maybe this? If it is, then it's Viburnum lentego, but that could easily be a tupelo leaf. No idea, because viburnum leaves melt really fast. Or not melt, but decay really fast. Toxidendron radicans, or poison ivy, we're making this furry vine right here, hairy. That's how you know, growing on this ash tree that's declining. We have Cardamine pensylvatica, or swamp bittercress. It's pretty common, little tiny white flowers. It smells mustardy, and it is in the mustard family, or the Brassicaceae. Beautiful Pacra aurea, or golden ragwort. These will have little dandelion flower heads that are maybe 2 feet tall, like this, in June. Filled with beautiful little gold flowers, and it has this wonderful, pretty much evergreen foliage. These are a type of sedge, so the carex. We have a rush here, or juncus. Various anoclea, or sensitive ferns. This is all Pacra in here. Tons of skunk cabbage everywhere. Shrubs include spicebush and Rosa multiflora. Going is slow because it sucks. And your boot can get stuck, so you got to be careful. There's a big spice bush. Trees include tupelo, ash, and maple. And there's some oak here and there. Mud isn't too soft. You think maybe an inch or two. Mucklands are fun. Closed thicket mucklands are not that way. Much more pain in the ass to get through. I can't say more diverse because they are a thicket, super thick. So you can sometimes follow the main course of a stream, but that's typically the deepest area that you step in. So it makes travel kind of extremely slow, especially with that meandering, winding course some of these little brooks have. That skunk cabbage. Geese are out. You can just see him. Maybe. Yep. We have Woodardea cristata, or crested wood fern, typical of swamps like these. Here we have a grape, and that's the genus Vitis. I don't know exactly which one, but I know it's the native one. Through this wall of crap. Got a greenbrier there. Just trying to find the easiest way through, because that's an opening on that side. So we'll see. Little slime, jelly mold slime thing on this dead stick. Going through here, pretty much crouched down. I'm pretty much just gonna send it through. Put the hood up, and boom. They're in the clearing with some goldenrod. And these are galls, and it's basically a little worm that makes the goldenrod build a thing around it. I mean the grub in there, or wasp technically, the larva produces a hormone that makes the plant basically grow a fleshy bit around it, and then the larva eats that fleshy bit. And this just acts to protect it as well. This area definitely isn't any better. Phragmites swamp. Typically a pain to go through. And this is all invasive Phragmites. Phragmites australis. I didn't really like the open swamp, so I'm going to follow this deer path through this briar and then onto some higher elevation. Maybe higher by like a foot. I'll see every day. Beaked hazelnut, a Corylus cornetta, with an actual fruit on it. I rarely see these with actual fruit. Usually they fall off or dehiss before you get to see them, or they're just not big enough. I've noticed a lot of them aren't big enough. So it's basically a birch family plant. These are the catkins. These will be yellow danglers in a few weeks. And then this is the little pink poof that comes out of here. That's the female part, and these are the male part. Wind pollinated. Awesome to see. Corylus cornuta. Double holly right here. Ilex opaca. God's tree. Almost a triple. Beautiful tree. And then we got the Woodardea areolata right here. That rare fern I love. Back into the open swamp forest. Nice red maple right there. So awesome. Look at that beautiful coloration. Freaking skunk cabbage. So awesome. Look at that beautiful coloration. Freaking skunk cabbage. Freaking holly fell right down and is doing just fine. And it's been falling for a long time. Long enough for the leaves not only to face up, but for the branches to horizontal out. Now, I'm not 100% sure if that branch... Yeah, so this tree is a different one, but this one is the thing right here. So it's definitely old. It's definitely been like this for a long time. And that's just a different individual right there. You never find American hollies this big in most areas. This is the only area that I know of, because this is, where they're common. And this is a future look of a lot of... places throughout New England, because this plant is spreading. I find it in basically sapling form in like nearly every forest I go to. And by sapling form, I mean like a little tiny seedling. But I don't see many seedlings in here. I see the occasional one. The sign, the yellow birch. But what that does, it just kills the tree pretty immediately. Pretty much anywhere where the bark is cut in is going to form just like a big rotten hole. It's pretty much girdling it. You can see it's nearly girdled all the way around. So this tree will likely die one day. I mean, of course one day, but it's definitely declining. You can see it's been hit by a vehicle there. And now it's just kind of rotting away in. Senicula canadensis. And then right here, we have like some kind of polypore, but more on the Senicula. Senicula has tiny white green flowers. I mean, super small, and they just form these kind of spiky little, I guess, seed pods that stick to animals when they walk by. And it's in the carrot family. And it's relatively uncommon, but it likes areas where, like, there's no leaf matter or less leaf matter, such as along paths. It needs bare dirt to germinate. Meatbally, burly red maple. That thing's insane. They're really swelling on this beautiful high bush blueberry, or Vaccinium corymbosum. These will be white bell-shaped flowers that'll turn into your delicious blueberries. Nice red foliage in the fall. It's one of my favorite shrubs. Diphtheria precumbens. I wasn't expecting to see this out here. Or the eastern tea berry has a little white dangly flower that turns into the delicious red berry. It's in the blueberry family. Sassafras albidium. Beautiful sassafras. Mitten-shaped leaves, circle-shaped leaves. It's an awesome plant. It smells real nice. Small tree gets over 50 feet tall, but typically they're towards the end of their life when they get that tall. They live only like 60 to 100 years. This little Tupelo grove, densely growing. Awesome. Here I believe is Veratrum viride, where it's just the poking up bit is underneath this little hairy thing, which I'm pretty sure is the old, I guess, bottom part of the plant. So I'm pretty sure this is Veratrum viride, or it's some other similar species. Calopalustris. It's a beautiful buttercup, bright yellow flowers in mid to late April. And then it's just this kind of green glossy foliage throughout the summer, and then it dies back in probably August. We have Hemerocallis fulva, or the invasive daylily. These are the typical orange ones that you see sold in garden centers. They're a horrendous plant. But they don't really spread by seed, so pretty much wherever, you know, a rhizome or someone plants it, it'll just form a dense thicket. But it doesn't, you know, get deep into the forest like other invasives like Phragmites or barberry do. This is Yerbia divaricata, or the whitewood aster, very common. I figured I hadn't seen it or shown it yet, so I had to. Here we have Artemisia vulgaris, or the invasive mugwort, another horrendous plant, probably brought in on fill. Example of a rich housing development. You can see that there's no landscaping and there's just lawn. And you can see it just looks ritzy. It's got the cedar shingles. I mean, I doubt it's lived in full time. It's probably just another second home. I wouldn't be surprised. Oh yeah, look. In the front there, those dark green shrubs, those are yews. Or they're perhaps Japanese hollies. And then you just have lawn. And just typical, you know, beige, tacky, or not tacky, but just beige, you know, minimalist design of the houses around here, just like these colonials. It's a bad house by any means. I'm just saying it's, you know, it's your second house that you barely live in. Fun first little hike up here in southeastern Rhode Island, so now I'm going to go to some uplands nearby.